Marc Marquez already told you how this ends. In January, on Spanish television, he said it plainly: "I know I will end my career sooner due to my body than my mind." Nobody treated it as a warning. 3 rounds into 2026, he is 5th in the championship, carrying an unhealed shoulder into his home race, and the people closest to him are publicly answering questions about his physical condition. The problem was never his speed. It was always his body. And that is not a slow start. That is a pattern. So why is nobody treating his own words as the warning they were? And what does it mean for 2026 and beyond, that the body setting his ceiling is already giving answers? Let's start with why that line matters. It was January 2026. Marquez had just won the title. The paddock was celebrating. And instead of talking about defending the championship, he was talking about how his body would be the thing that ends him. Not his mind, not the competition, not a decision. His body, not a throwaway line. A cold statement of fact from a man who has been to the operating table more times than any champion should have to go. His mind, he said, is still a rocket, but the body is already setting the timeline. And I don't think that line got the attention it deserved, because Marquez had just won the title, and the instinct of the paddock was to celebrate, not to sit with what he was actually saying. I want you to hold that quote, and everything that has happened since is that quote becoming evidence. And this is where it changes. The Indonesia crash in October 2025, Bezzecchi taking him out on lap 1, was not just another injury. It was a coracoid fracture and ligament damage to the right shoulder. The same arm that had already been through 4 operations and the best part of 3 years. Hit again, in a different structure, but the same arm. Marquez missed to the final 4 races of 2025 and went into surgery weeks after clinching the title. He came into 2026 pre-season, still not fully recovered, still managing a shoulder that has now been operated on more than once. Let's be honest about what that means for a rider whose physical style is among the most demanding in the sport. Every late break, every slide recovery, every crash save that made Marquez extraordinary puts load through that arm. And this is not ancient history. This is the condition he arrived in for round 1. And even Dall Igna, before the cameras, could not pretend the situation is clean. He told Sky Sport this week, "When you arrive at pre-season with such a serious shoulder injury, you need time to put things right." That is the team principle of the reigning world champion admitting in public that his rider is not whole. And that sentence does not get said unless the situation warrants it. But the story doesn't end with the shoulder, because 3 rounds into 2026, the results are showing something specific. Not a general slowdown. Marquez still has the sprint win, still has the raw speed in qualifying. What is changing is the physical output over race distances. Thailand retired after a curb strike while fighting for 3rd. Brazil ran wide late, handing 3rd to Di Giannantonio. Austin, long lap penalty, damage limitation. But underneath those incidents is a question worth asking. How much of the late race aggression that defined Marquez at his peak requires the kind of physical reserve he no longer has? The late braking, the physical demands through high-speed sections, the ability to fight for position on the final lap when everything hurts. And those are the exact areas where a compromised shoulder starts to cost you. Not in qualifying, not on lap 1, in the moments where the race is decided and the body has to agree with the mind. This is not a slow start. This is a warning. 1 sprint win from 3 rounds. A retirement. A late race error. A penalty. I don't think the people watching from inside the paddock are treating it as a slow start either. And I don't think they should. And, oh yeah, Dovizioso already said it out loud. The former Ducati factory rider told the Italian press that Marquez's situation is more serious than it appears. Dall Igna responded directly, calling Marquez one of the greatest champions in MotoGP history, and insisting he would be at 100% in Jerez. Make no mistake, Dall Igna's intervention is not reassurance, it is crisis management. But a team principal does not go on camera to contradict a former world champion unless the concern is already circulating at a level that demands a public answer. The defence before Marquez's home race tells you how seriously Ducati is taking the question, and the fact that Dall Igna spent as much time talking about the Monday test as the race tells you exactly where their real focus is. Is Jerez the reset everyone at Ducati needs it to be? Or is it the moment the gap becomes undeniable? So let's look at what the people closest to Marquez are actually saying. Alex, his brother, was asked recently about Marc's timeline and gave an answer that was meant to reassure but didn't quite land that way. He said Marc would race until his body stops him, not his mind. Let's sit with that for a moment, because Alex said it as a positive, as evidence of commitment and desire, as proof that his brother still has everything it takes mentally to compete at the front. But it is also the most precise description anyone close to Marc has given of the actual threat. Not the competition stopping him, not a conscious decision, not a prepared statement. The body setting the wall, quietly, incrementally, race by race. And that wall is already visible in the results of the first 3 rounds of a season Marquez was supposed to be defending. People look at this and see a champion carrying injury through a difficult start. They see the man who came back from the impossible in 2024 and could do it again. They expect Jerez to be the reset, his home circuit, his crowd, the moment the shoulder finally catches up with the ambition. And I understand why that instinct exists. Nobody who watched Marquez win Japan last year can fully shake it. The comeback story is one of the most extraordinary in sport, but this was never really a story about this season. I think most people who follow Marquez already know that. It was always about a deeper question. How many more times can a body that has been broken, rebuilt, broken again, and rebuilt again produce a full 22-round championship campaign? Not one race, not one sprint. 22 rounds at the limit of what that shoulder can take. I don't think that body is finished. Marquez on a bike is still one of the most dangerous things in MotoGP, but the window, the specific window where his physical ceiling allows him to defend a title for an entire season, is already narrowing. Alex said it without meaning to. Marc said it in January in the clearest terms available. The body will stop him before his mind does. And right now, 3 rounds into 2026, the body is already talking. This is not the end of Marc Marquez, but it might be the beginning of the limit he cannot beat. Let us know in the comments below. And once you do that, make sure to click on the video appearing on your screen right now.